Welcome to the Media Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadebonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And I want to jump right into the nerd news. We have so much going on. Now, I should say before we get into it that this week, as an exercise in my podcasting class, I'm now calling it a podcasting class.
What's the real name of the class?
Well, it's radio. It's the radio class. But this semester, I'm completely focusing on podcasting. The students are tweeting about their podcasts.
Yeah, I'm enjoying that.
Hashtag podlog if you want to follow along with that conversation.
It's better than Joke Journal.
Yes, and joke journal is a whole other thing you do for comedy writing.
Yeah.
But they're coming up with some great recommendations, and so anybody who's ever looking for new podcast recommendations, there's a resource right there for you. Anyway, so they're focusing on podcasting. So this week, as an exercise, I had them guest host the Media Nerds Podcast. So I say to them, okay, here's the scenario. You are hosts of our podcast. Here's the kind of stuff we talk about. You're going to do an intro. You're going to do nerd news. You're going to do main topic and then recommendations, just like we do on this show.
Excellent.
And so I haven't had a chance to listen to them yet, but the whole idea behind that was to give us more ideas for content because we were struggling to figure out what to talk about this week, but we do have a great topic, I think.
Well, the problem always is we do two podcasts. We do this one and we do Star Wars Nerds, and the Star Wars news has been fast and furious.
Oh, yeah.
So we're just saying like, oh, our heads are spinning with Star Wars news, and then when we do this podcast, the Star Wars news has exhausted us.
No.
So we come here, we're broken men. we're opening newspapers on our way down. We're trying to figure out some stories.
I'm on a computer here.
We're opening up papers, trying to find stories. That's how desperate it is.
And the other thing is that we honestly, like, what's dominated the news, even in media news, is Trump or Me Too and all these things. And certainly they're very important issues, but we can't keep saying this stuff over and over again. It gets a bit repetitive when we try to talk about the same content. So we'll get to that. I've got a great topic lined up for us today. But first, let's get into the nerd news. I don't know if you saw this. I believe I saw the video last night. People were sharing this on Facebook, but Nintendo has announced a new thing that goes along with the Nintendo Switch called the Nintendo Labo. Have you seen this?
No.
The idea is, remember when they had like those cardboard virtual reality glasses you could order and then put together and then you put your phone in it?
I have some.
You do really?
Yeah. People magazine for Rogue One
yes.
had a special edition. I was like, here I go. And then I got another pair for the New York Times.
Okay,
so I have two.
I remember that because I tried those ones for People magazine and they were a little underwhelming, to be honest. But
well, you're wearing a cardboard on your face.
Yes, exactly. So Nintendo has taken this idea to the next level. They've created a bunch of different things that you make out of cardboard. You buy the sheets, you pop them out. It's all perforated and all pre-cut, and you put it together according to the instructions, and you can make yourself a piano, a remote-controlled vehicle, a fishing rod. What else was it? There was a ton of stuff. This thing where it was like a backpack, and all of it is designed to work with software that you get for the Nintendo Switch. So for the piano, you make it, you put it all together, and then you put the tablet part of the Switch in there, and then you put the two controllers on the sides, and you can play the piano. I have no idea how it works. It's all very interesting. The one with the backpack, it was like you're playing a game as a robot, so you're like, you've got these strings on the end, and you're like controlling the robot's arms, and there's a part where you can transform into a car, so you do that. And the fishing rod one, while you basically put the tablet in there, and you're like reeling in a fish. It's like a fishing game, like real fishing, real bass fishing, or whatever. Remember that game?
Yeah.
So anyway, it's very, very cool stuff, and I'm very, very excited about this. I'm starting to regret not buying a Nintendo Switch.
Really?
Well, I didn't want to get one because there didn't seem to be enough out for it, but now this has been announced. I'm like, and it's coming out on my birthday too, which is so. Hey, there's
so
a good
you don't have to buy it.
There you go, birthday present for me.
By the way, time always marches on this stuff, and even if you miss the first iteration of this, there will be better ones down the path. There always are.
I should not let myself get so hyped up by a simple video, but it is very cool. It's so neat to do this.
I noticed that Walmart has a bin of virtual reality headgear that you can buy for your phone, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
Like it's surprisingly, it's basically get rid of the cardboard, get something nicely made, but you're still sliding your phone into it.
But you can, I mean, some of them come with headphones and some of them come with depends on what it is. But yeah, it's obviously, it's much, much more accessible now. And I think it's kind of neat. We're living in the future, Kenton. That's the simple answer.
One of our students, of course, we mentioned this on another podcast, but one of our students gave us passes.
Yes.
To go to the virtual reality center.
Yes. I don't know that's what it's called. I don't remember.
To this thing where you essentially put on the headgear and
it's a virtual it's a VR arcade basically.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
And so we are going to do that. We're going to go out and bring our team here from Shaw TV down there to shoot us looking very silly with weird things on our heads and punching or doing.
Well, and then maybe they can do it and we can shoot them. Let's see. With laser beams.
We'll see.
What do you guys say? Okay, good. They're saying yes.
So anyway, obviously this is kind of a neat idea, and really you could do so much with it. You can keep making different things. You could also keep updating the software, so there's a real longevity here. And the funny thing is, the article here I have from Forbes. Now this is shouldn't do this, but I'm just going by the headline here. Nintendo Switch's new cardboard Labo could completely fail, and that's why it's awesome. That's what the headline is. So, I don't think it will fail. Obviously it's made out of cardboard, so these things aren't designed to last forever, but they're designed to last long enough for you to have some fun with them, and that's kind of the point of it.
That's one of those headlines that I've been seeing all week. Why Disney is worried the Solo film is terrible or whatever. It's just designed for clicks, and that headline is the same thing. That's
exactly. It's
is what
clickbait,
that
absolutely.
Is, yeah.
And honestly, we'll talk about the Solo stuff on our other podcast, but I'm
Similar.
so clickbaited out. That's why I don't click on anything anymore, because I don't want to give them the satisfaction. Right. So anyway, next story: Deadpool 2. They've announced the release date, May 18th, which seems this year, which is like not too far away. It seems like a weird short term of announcement. Like they usually announce these movies years ahead of time.
What day is Solo coming out? How close to that?
It's the 25th, I believe. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
So in similar time period.
Yeah, same month. I
Interesting.
think a week later, actually. That's probably what that means. May 18th for Deadpool 2. And now my computer's not working properly. Okay, so which is cool, and they've done some great marketing for Deadpool 2. We saw the Bob Ross video last month, which was kind of cool. Although they did play it at the theater. Remember, we were at the theater when we saw Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and they played it. And I'm like, this is not appropriate for my kids to watch.
Oh, I never thought of that.
He was doing like the whacking. I'm whacking or whatever.
Oh,
He was doing the thing, and I'm like, that's not like they bleep the swears, but it's like still not. Come on, my kids aren't going to go see Deadpool. There's no way. So that wasn't appropriate. But he did also wish Betty White a happy birthday yesterday. That was something they posted.
That's nice.
And there's a cool thing they did with what's his name? Zayn. Zayn Malik from One Direction. He posted a video on Zayn Malik's Instagram account. I don't know how they got that, but it was Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool gear with a birthday message for Zayn Malik. So it's kind of cool how they're kind of reaching out to these different audiences to try and get them to come see Deadpool. And it's like, okay, Betty White's she's 94, 95, something like that. She turned yesterday. So it's an older audience. And then they have like the One Direction, the younger audience. So they're really reaching to all different audiences for this film. I don't think that anybody who's a big fan of Betty White is going to go to see Deadpool 2. But
did the students generate this idea in
No.
your class? Oh, okay. Because
No.
I was going to say that would itself point to this being
well, will you see it in the theater?
doubtful.
Yeah,
I saw the first one on an airplane the first time.
That's always a great way
So
to see a movie.
yeah, especially when the plane lands and it cuts the end of the movie off. That's the best. I think that's what happened.
What happened?
I didn't
Really?
see the ending, and then I caught it on TV.
How do you? But that's like you've paid for the movie.
No, well, they shut it off when the plane's landing.
Oh,
apparently,
it's so stupid. You should get a credit or something, or get to watch the rest of it.
Well, you're
next
sitting
week.
there like, this is the plane. You're like, oh boy, I can't wait to see it. This is going to happen. They're like, you're in Toronto.
And the funny thing is, they should leave it playing right
like
until they should leave it playing right until the moment you get off the plane, because really you're sitting there for a good 20, 30 minutes while you're waiting for everybody to deboard or whatever. So keep it playing.
People are like a pack of wild dogs getting off a plane, so it won't kill you to actually numb them a little bit.
I love
with
it.
some
I just love
entertainment.
it when the person like stands up and they just sit there waiting, like all hunched over because they can't really stand up.
They
all
can't
the way.
wait to flip that up so it can everything can fall out on my head.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so bad.
Yeah, so that's how I saw Deadpool the first time. So to this day, when I think of Deadpool, I'm like, I don't really think I like that film, but I don't know how much of it is.
I've seen it a few times. It was. I don't think like it was too hyped up. I didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah.
So I saw it shortly after it was released on video, and it was like kind of overhyped. So I was expecting it to be way more than it was.
Yeah, I was too.
And it was fine. It's a fine movie, and I'm sure the second one will be fine. Although now we're getting into more stuff that I really care about, like Cable, which was I did read X-Force as a kid. That was one of my favorite comic books. So I'm familiar with the character of Cable and what's going on there, and Domino as well as in this film. So we're touching on, like, Deadpool was kind of a side character for me. I never really loved Deadpool, but I was aware of him. But now we're gonna get into stuff where, you know, this is my fandom they're messing with if they mess it up. So we'll see. I'm a little more personally invested in this one, I think.
I think Deadpool and Ant-Man remind me of each other because they were both marketed as forget what you know about hero films, and and so as a result, the expectations are way high. And then you see them and go, "Oh, it's a superhero film with some jokes." And like it's not as groundbreaking, I think, as it gets. Especially Deadpool for what it gets credit for, just because of the rating. I think the rating made it seem far edgier and dangerous.
But it was a lesson for studios, not for us. We knew it was going to be good. Like we knew you could make an R-rated superhero movie and it would be successful.
Right.
But studios were not convinced that. Studios are like, you have to make it PG-13. Kids have to be able to see this. But no, adults love Deadpool. The character is 20 years old or more.
Yeah.
So obviously everyone who is aware of it, and it's an R-rated character, you can't like cut that down. People would hate it. So they made the right call. It was successful. And so this is kind of, and Logan's another good example of that as well. A film that is an R-rated film that still did very well, critically acclaimed, and did very well financially. So you know, it doesn't mean every movie has to be R-rated, but there's no barrier now. If somebody wants to make a movie that is R-rated, they will consider it.
Yeah,
you know
although we've talked about the Star Wars having an R-rated film, which I don't think it'll ever. Well, not the way things presently are, but we've always talked about how Rogue One might have been, Rogue One meets Hacksaw Ridge would have been an incredible film, but it would have alienated an entire base of kids who love Star Wars.
Yeah,
so that's
for sure.
It's a difficult decision for a studio to make.
Last story in the nerd news this week: YouTube wants you to stop posting Tide Pod challenge videos. Okay. Okay, Kenton.
What is this challenge? Tell me. Maybe I'd like to try it.
What's funny is that in my social media class, I give the students an assignment to create a new social media platform. So they kind of have to come up with something new. It can borrow from other things because that happens a lot when people do these new things. But one of the groups came up with this. It's a social media platform geared around online challenges, and they came up with this before this Tide Pod thing broke. And now they're presenting, and all anybody can ask questions about is the Tide Pod challenge, because this is like one of these challenges that is, it's ridiculous. People are eating the Tide Pods. No, wouldn't you hate to be Tide at this moment? Like, these are things that...
Well, the sales are up.
Oh.
But no, sales are good, but the problem is, as a long-term strategy, it's not the best.
Well, they went through this a couple years ago when kids started eating it, and kids were dying from being poisoned. Now, to be fair to a toddler, it kind of looks like candy, and that's not... that's something that's like bright colored. It's small enough to put in your mouth.
It's the wrong message for the brand.
Right. So they have warning labels. They have safety features on the packaging now, so kids can't, childproof cap or whatever. But now adults are buying them, and adults are eating them as a challenge. And I guess the challenge is see if you can eat it without gagging. I don't know what the goal is. What is the challenge in eating a Tide Pod? Because
I'll bet you can't just eat one.
It's like, can you eat this and not die? Is that the challenge? Because that's not a good challenge to undertake.
Not a good challenge.
So anyway,
of all the crazy things, and that tweet is now sponsored. Tide has said, like, we don't want you eating these, and now I noticed this morning in my Twitter feed it's a sponsored tweet.
Is it really?
Where they're putting money behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, YouTube is now cracking down. So they're trying. This is among all the other things YouTube is trying to crack down on their platform, but they're trying to actually actively take down these videos that have Tide Pod challenge videos. However, I just looked on YouTube, and there's still a ton of them out there. I don't know. I don't know what these guys are thinking. And these are like a day ago. I take the Tide Pod challenge 2 days ago. This has been at least a week. This has been a story. Why are you still doing this? Is this story causing more people to take the Tide Pod challenge?
It's the fascination with something you're not supposed to be doing at this point, I think.
But it's so dangerous. How can you not see that it's dangerous?
The problem is you see people on there doing it who weren't harmed by it, and then I think that's when people think, well, it's overblown or whatever.
One guy
but
says,
I think you do get views and stuff. It's the world we live in, and I think that's why people are doing it.
I took the Tide Pod challenge and lived in world record time. Honestly, tastes like Cool Breeze mint. Ugh. smack. I'm like, I don't know. So the internet continues to be
some
stupid.
of these are grown adults, by the way.
Oh, yeah, this is a grown adult. This is
That's
a guy.
right.
That does it for the Nerd News. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about the state of the podcast. It's time for a discussion.
Our annual discussion.
Well, but we haven't done it in a little while.
Has it been
I think we missed
longer
last
than a year?
Yeah, it has. So we need to do it because we're coming up on. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second. We'll be right back on the Media Nerds podcast. We're back on the Media Nerds podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about what we do to promote our podcast because we haven't really been doing much as of late.
No, we've been organically. I think what you're trying to say is we've relied on organic for a while.
Well, and and to be fair, we've also fallen into a bit of a routine when it comes to letting people know. Now, so here's what we do usually. We record the podcast. We're doing it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I usually get it up within a day or two, depending on how busy I am and how much editing there has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
So this episode, we're recording on a Thursday. It'll probably be up Saturday morning. And I kind of like that as a time to release podcast, but it's not consistently that. And it's something we could do better is be consistent about the days we're releasing so people know to expect Media Nerds and Star Wars Nerds on the same day and time every week. So that's something I can make a commitment to doing. We'll just have to figure out. And now we're back into the swing of things at work. We have set times to record these podcasts so we can kind of get into a bit of a better routine with that.
Look, Shaw's here.
Shaw's here.
So that's what, about a year? Have we been doing that?
Well, we're into season 2 now on Shaw.
So 2, okay.
So this is Shaw TV comes in and shoots us, and I get so many people telling us. A student told me the other day that they had their cable hooked up. They switched over to Shaw, and they had their cable hooked up. And as the TV came on,
really,
our handsome faces were playing on Shaw TV. So there you go. Not to mention that all the different little Shaw stores where you go to get your cable hooked up and that kind of stuff, they're playing their Shaw TV channel. So a lot of people see us through that medium. Now, that's a great marketing tactic. We do wish to continue this partnership with Shaw TV, so please keep us on the air. Consistent release dates, something we can do better. But also, I think, I posted on, so I put it on the website, tweeted out. I usually tag you in the first tweet. You retweet me, and then a little bit later, either the same day or the next day, you take the link from the iTunes feed. So what I do is I tweet out the actual Libsyn feed, direct link to the podcast episode. And the reason I do that is because it actually creates a player in Twitter, so people can just play it right from Twitter. That's why I do that. I don't include images.
I have played it off the link. Yes,
it works really well.
Yes,
so I continue to do that, and it works well. And then what I'll do is a couple days. So then you'll retweet, or you'll tweet it out the next day or later on that same day, and I'll retweet you.
Right.
So we kind of do a little bit of back and forth there, and that's just to kind of try to hit people who didn't see it the first time around, people who follow you but don't follow me, and vice versa, that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So that's a great thing to do. Now, we don't want to annoy people with our tweets.
I think we're pretty moderate with it.
Yeah,
that's
why we would not want to change that aspect of the marketing tactics because we don't want to be like annoyingly tweeting things out. Hey, check out this episode.
Although I see other podcasts doing it insanely.
I do.
Like 100,000 times a day.
And I don't want to be annoying, but what I think we could do is start kind of promoting the back catalog a bit because we have some really good episodes in the past that maybe if someone's just new to the podcast, they haven't had a chance to go through all those episodes, that might be a great way to do that. So, for example, our interview with Pablo Hidalgo, which is 2 years ago now, that's something that it's one of the most listened to episodes, but it's been 2 years. I don't think I've tweeted it out since that day, since whatever that week that we did that. So I think
might have done it once.
But it's something that we can kind of revisit and re-promote, and it could be even like a Throwback Thursday thing if you really want to tie it into something online. So I think we could do a bit of that more, like promoting past episodes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm trying to do as well. And then also I do the Facebook page. So I post it onto the Facebook page. I usually change the cover image to match whatever we're talking about, and then I post it to Facebook and I share it through Facebook, and usually tag you in it, and then you usually share it as well. And that's Facebook and Twitter.
Although I'm light on Facebook for sure. I'm on it once a week to post jobs, so I see what's there at that point. They have a new algorithm.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that.
So what's happening with the new algorithm on Facebook?
Well, it highlights family connections, I believe, and I've already seen evidence of that last week.
Okay.
My cousin in Toronto, his like last 5 posts were my top news stories, I guess. I think that's going to have an impact on what we do there. But I'm not on there very much. However, this is a funny story. My financial advisor, because I'm Moneybags Larson.
Of course you are.
So I'm always at my financial advisor. I'm wondering what to do with my millions. And he said to me, "Hey, I caught your podcast."
Oh,
and I was like, "You did? Like, how did that happen?" And he's like, "Oh, I saw your link on LinkedIn." And you know what? I have not posted. Like, I used to do that, and I was like, "What am I getting off? Who's even looking at it on LinkedIn?" So I sort of tapered it back. But I thought that was interesting. That it's true that on LinkedIn you stand out more because the feed isn't as cluttered.
Well, not only that, but you're offering different content than everybody else, because everything on LinkedIn is all about, here's how I'm successful in business,
right,
or here's some tips to increase your job prospects, or something like that.
16 ways Apple beats their employees into submission, or whatever. and yours stands out because it'll have a different.
Let's just say, we're going to talk about Netflix or whatever we talk about, right? It's funny. Yesterday I had a former CreCom student, Riley McDonald, in, and host of the Wrecked by Tech podcast. So we'll give him a shout out as well. Great student. He had a podcast when he was here as a student. You were his advisor, I believe. And
him and his colleague did a podcast.
Mike, yes, absolutely. And Mike's now moved away. But Riley came in because he works at Manitoba Hydro as a social media analyst, and handles all their social media posts and that kind of thing. And what did he say about LinkedIn? He said people on LinkedIn are kind of sucking up in a little. Like, he says that Hydro has a lot of people following them on LinkedIn, but he thinks it's because they all want a job there.
Yes, of course it is.
And that's for sure you're going to do that. You're going to follow. So I would imagine some people who follow us on LinkedIn also want a job here at the college. Like, they want to keep that connection, which isn't it's
not unreasonable.
No, it's for sure. And I mean, I'm not in charge of the hiring process here, so
no.
But if somebody's like, they want to know when a job, obviously you have the job connection. You're the guy who posts all the jobs, so people probably.
Sometimes people think that I'm offering those jobs. Like there's some confusion there from time to time. I definitely get that.
Yeah.
I also get students who aren't in our program, who might be interested in our program, or who have graduated from another program and then seen kind of the connection to jobs and then want some of my time to further discuss the jobs or that kind of thing. So I think sometimes there is some confusion about I'm just providing those jobs as they come up.
You are you're the message board. You're the job board.
Right. That's right.
You're doing a much better job than the government of Canada.
Well, I am trying to connect students to the job opportunities, and I post the ones that people send to me, and then some other ones as they come up. Now, there's some employers who don't want their stuff linked to, so I'm happy to not link them as they so desire. But it's a way to do that. But I think sometimes it might be confusing.
And I send them to you. If anybody sends some my way, I send them to you as well. So we kind of build that network as well.
Yeah.
So LinkedIn. We could absolutely post more on LinkedIn. We used to get into arguments on LinkedIn about our show. We used to have somebody commenting on it. Oh yeah, this is like back. We used to trash.
I know what you're talking
trash
about.
radio a lot on this program. This is before we were on TV. So clearly we have a favorite medium.
We weren't
now.
trashing radio.
We were criticizing.
It's what I always say to people is like, it's the marketing I don't like. Like, it's not.
No.
It's not the
I was talking about the content.
Yeah.
I was talking about the content of radio, and I was criticizing, and I think of ourselves as media critics in a lot of ways.
Sure.
We're kind of taking a step back and looking at this from maybe a more detached view than somebody who works in media, because we don't work in media anymore, but we are very closely connected to it. So anyway, I was criticizing radio and their tactics, their way of creating content and all this other stuff, not embracing the whole podcasting thing. That was an issue like 3 or 4 years ago. And this person who worked in radio at the time, who doesn't anymore, started kind of a big argument with me on LinkedIn about it. So that was a fun time. I don't mind. I don't mind getting into, as long as people are civil and they're like willing to discuss it. I'm happy to argue my point of view. But it was, and what the person really didn't like was me giving away some of the secrets behind, like they don't like CJB doesn't own that chopper kind of thing. Like that was one of the things he was upset about. Like they have their logo on the chopper, they pay for that, but they don't. It's another company that runs that whole chopper traffic thing. So that's something.
Well, maybe we need a chopper for this podcast.
We do. Oh, absolutely.
Did you write down the name of the company? So
yes.
We can
It's Canadian Traffic Network.
Good.
Canadian Traffic Network. We can rent out their services, and you can go up in the chopper if you want. And
why not?
Kenton Larson. There's a jackknife trailer. Anyway, okay. So there's that. The other thing I thought. Now let's talk about Facebook for a second. So they are, I guess, trying to change the algorithm to offer less sponsored stuff, more personal posts, which is good for us because we kind of have fallen off the whole paying for boosting posts. I haven't done that in quite a long time. To be honest, after FanQuest last year, I was a little I was dissatisfied with the results that we had of that. We spent a lot of money on Facebook promoting FanQuest, didn't see a huge return as far as people actually coming to the event. So I've kind of been stepping back from Facebook as an advertising platform lately. Not that I don't think it's effective, but it just didn't seem to be effective for that reason. And so I have not boosted any posts, and I got to tell you, we get really not a lot of traction on Facebook at all.
Yeah.
As far as, so that's a problem. Like, I don't know how, it's weird because that's where everybody is.
Yeah.
Everybody's on Facebook, so it seems like that would be a great place for everyone to gather and listen. But it doesn't seem, we get like 1 or 2 likes maybe on an image or a post. We get no comments.
Well, commenting is pretty dead.
We don't
these
get a lot
days
of
on
comments,
social media.
but I do know examples of other podcasts who do have like much more. I guess maybe it's just about the audience, a much more vocal audience. But
yeah.
But the like the Countdown podcast, who I listen to, and those guys in Australia, they have a great audience. Who, not that our audience isn't great, guys. You guys are awesome. But they all get into these big debates about movies and stuff like that. Oftentimes, I'll have people messaging me privately about the podcast.
Oh,
They
sure.
say I agree with what you're saying. They're just not wanting to put their comment out into the public eye. So my question is that, and we have a page. We have a Facebook page for our podcast. What the Countdown has done is they've created a group on Facebook. So it's a private group, although anybody can join basically, but you have to get approved to join. And so what that means is that every post is seen by everybody in the group. So there's no worrying about the algorithm and the feed. Everything comes up, and it seems to be working really well for them.
Sure.
So do you think we should do something like that?
That makes that's decent. Facebook changes that up from time to time too. So you never know about that. When you turn over too much to Facebook, then Facebook changes things.
Yes,
it tends to happen that way.
And they're going to have to do something because when Zuckerberg made that statement last week about changing the feed, the investors didn't. The stock dropped. People did not like that because it seems as though he's kind of turning his back on the sponsors and investors. But I understand where he's coming from. He wants to make it a better experience for people. Otherwise, people are going to drop Facebook.
Well, plus they're under fire for the election, for
Yep.
the election-based, the Soviet propaganda that came, that allegedly. No, it's not alleged. I think they did show it. That they showed it.
Yes,
they admitted it. Yeah. So I think they're under fire for that. But I said to the students this week, like Zuckerberg saying there's going to be fewer ads for better experience. It's like, let's not just give them a halo yet, because what that means is the cost of ads is going to go up to be the magical one that does show up in the feed. It's going to be it's supply and demand.
But I don't have a problem with that.
No, and that may be legit, but if people think they're going to get their $5 boost like they once did, I don't think that's going to happen anymore.
I think if the overall price of online advertising goes up, it's good for everybody, especially traditional media, because that also becomes people have devalued traditional media because it's so. They feel and I was on this boat as well. I felt it was overpriced. I didn't think it was as effective as like the cost of it would indicate, but it still is absolutely effective. The Shaw TV thing is a proof of that. There's so many people who tell us they've seen this on Shaw TV. That shows you that traditional media is still very much alive, and people will see the podcast through those means. So if the price but Facebook's so cheap that there's just no competition. People will automatically go to Facebook. Plus, they can set it up themselves. That makes it very easy. But yeah, if the price goes up, I think it's good. It's a good thing. And Facebook won't be able to sell as many ads, but they'll make money because they're charging more for the ads. So it'll be better. And hopefully YouTube follows suit and everybody follows suit. Maybe that's what Twitter has been doing this whole time.
This week, Snapchat changed its format too, and now the ads are integrated with Friends, so you can't tell what's what. It's harder to separate one from the other.
Yeah, I've noticed
so that changed. This is the week that I got my students online looking at all the ad platforms, and it usually all changes. So far, the only thing I don't see changes with are Google AdWords, but that could be coming. That could be the next thing that we see.
And those, I remember back when it used to cost like 10 cents for an ad, and now it's like $5 or more. Like, there's so many people using that now that the bid for clicks thing is like super expensive.
I did my first campaign on AdWords when I first did it. It was years ago. And on a $10 bid, I paid 2 cents a click. For whatever.
A
click.
That's
2
not
cents.
even, that's just incredible.
Yeah.
Though. So
now it's not 2 cents.
The other thing, speaking of Twitter, I pretty much abandoned our Media Nerds Twitter account. I have not posted there in quite a long time. I was looking at it the other day and saying, this doesn't look great that we're just not
that is
posting
dead
there.
there.
Well, it's dead, but it's because I'm not active, but also because most of the I was heavily involved in the hashtag Potter family last few years. Again, I've fallen off of that. What I find with that is a very insular. They're all great people and they make great podcasts, and it's great that they want to self-promote and promote each other, but they're all just kind of retweeting each other. There's no growth necessarily. So I've just kind of fallen off of that because, people there can find our podcast. I did it for a couple of years, and I think it's good for podcasts to leave that hashtag and allow room for newer podcasts to come in.
Having your own page, having your own account for each individual podcast can be problematic. Although yesterday I was looking for a band, a 90s band that I loved called the Candy Skins. And I'm like, surely the band has a Twitter account. So I do the search, and there's nothing. So I was like, okay, well, they don't. And then I looked at the band members. So I start with the lead singer. And it's like, there he is. He's got his own personal account. So I followed that. But then I started thinking about it and thinking about Media Nerds account. And like, if people type Media Nerds, which we should do, we should see what happens in Twitter when you type Media Nerds.
Okay, let's see.
Like, let's see what happens. Like, do our individual personal accounts come up, or do you...
I don't know if I have to log into Twitter on this computer. Actually, I can do it on my phone. I'll do it on my phone.
All right. That's what I was curious to know. Like, is having it in your profile enough? Does that tell Twitter enough about your involvement?
Actually, it's better if I don't sign in because then it won't show me.
But then maybe you can't search.
No, you can search here.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
All right, what happens?
Media Nerds. Searching.
Click on people. I want to see what comes
Kenton
up.
Larson is the first thing that comes up. And then our Media Nerds podcast comes up as well.
How about you? Where are you?
I don't know. I'm not.
Is it in your profile?
I'm not in top. It might not be in my profile.
Oh, that might be it. You can start by doing that.
Oh, there you go. Oh, you're right. I don't have it in my
Oh,
profile.
do it.
I think that's because I switched it to promote. I switched it to promote FanQuest, and I didn't ever switch.
You can have all of it in your.
Well,
profile.
I should have it all in my profile. Yeah. So there you go. So you come up, and if I change mine, I come up, and then we don't need the actual account.
Yeah, maybe we don't need the that home base, and maybe the last tweet there is we're going to be deleting this. Follow us here.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe that's the last.
That's a good idea. So I'll do that.
But what happens? Does that vanish after you delete it? So you leave that tweet up for 2 weeks or something?
I think I can delete the account, and that's it. It goes away.
So maybe we don't need a last tweet. Maybe you and I just tweet that.
No, I'll tweet it on this because if anybody follows us on that Twitter account, who wants to see it, then let them know. But they might not see it because of the algorithm anyway, so we don't know how that's going to work out. Okay, so there you go. So the Media Nerds Twitter, we'll just do our own personal Twitter accounts. Facebook group, we'll start a Facebook group and see how that works. I'll keep the page around just because it's not hurting anybody.
No.
But I think just a group, maybe we'll get a little more of the discussion that we have with people who do, like there's like Chris Schiffman and some of the people who have been messaging us about, we actually had a great discussion with our students about the Star Wars panel we did last week. Some students are tweeting at us about that, so we'll invite them to join and discuss stuff. With the group, the discussion is much better because you do see everything, and it's like you won't miss a post, and that's like so important. So we'll try that out as well. Traditional media, I mean, we don't have much of a budget here, but that actually brings me to the next thing. I want to talk about Patreon. Because this is something I've also seen some podcasts doing, is they're creating a Patreon account in order to help, bring in a little bit of money to help to pay for some of the expenses. And so if we could do that and at least bring in enough money to cover the hosting costs, I think that would be a great thing.
It works. Well, like I think it also, you do that at the risk of alienating other people who enjoy the podcast.
Well, here's the thing. We change nothing about what we do here.
Yeah.
What we have to do is think of things that people would get with some added value for what they're paying. So if they want to pay $5 a month, they get something in return, but that usually results in more work on our part.
Well, it usually results in those people wanting to be on said podcast. I've noticed, I will not name names here, but there is a podcast that I really enjoy that every once in a while does the old welcome Patreon subscribers, and they have a round table that's all about tell us when you first heard about my podcast.
Oh, no.
Like that kind of thing.
That's awful.
So it becomes this self-congratulatory thing, like 5 Patreon supporters telling the host why they fell in love with the show. And it's like, we don't need that.
No.
But that's the danger, I think.
Yes.
And the other danger, I think, is you look at how much people are willing to pay. So let's say it's $2 or $3 a month. And what is the expectation of reward on the other end?
Right.
And you're like, that's a toonie. You know, like that, like in Canada, that is a toonie. So you start to think about that too, and go like those microtransactions. Either you have lots of them and it works out, or you don't have very many, and then you sort of have to ask yourself why you're doing it.
Everything is going very well with these podcasts. I still enjoy it. It's been 5 years.
I love hosting it.
We've been doing this for 5 years. Can you believe that?
It's crazy.
Yeah, and those early episodes are lost in the internet and will never see the light of day again.
Good.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right where we want them.
Exactly.
Go. Phew. I was worried those were going to come back to haunt us one day.
No. I told students that. That's one of the reasons why I had them do the exercise in class this semester. This week, because I told them, I know from years of doing this that the early episodes always suck. So I'm trying to get you past those sucky episodes faster by making you do this stuff in class.
You have to develop the rhythm, and that's why when we have guests, and we will next week have a guest on our Star Wars Nerds podcast, but when we have a guest, that's why sometimes it's a little clunky in terms of we all stop talking at the same time.
Yeah,
to let the guest talk, and the guest looks at us like, what do you guys want me to do? And so you get the silence, but it takes a while to get that going. And usually the problem with the first podcast, it's either too stiff, where everybody's sitting around going, here is our first story, or it's too wild because everybody wants to be the morning zoo. Yeah. It's usually it's one of the extremes. It takes a while to find the right tone.
But that being said, I would love us to have more guests on this podcast. I think that's something we should absolutely do.
It always helps. It makes a podcast better.
It's a new, and I'm talking about both podcasts on.
I agree.
Actually, I don't want to say anything yet, but we're setting up some cool interviews for Star Wars Nerds coming up. So that'll be something I can tease, and then doing it also here on this podcast, getting more people in. And so if anybody is interested in coming on that aren't students, no students
that aren't students.
Well, no. But if they have something interesting to say, please,
unlike your students,
hit us up on Patreon. No, I'm just joking. No, but absolutely, if we would love to have more media people on. I think that would be a great thing. We've talked about that in the past.
Well,
we have had people.
We had the great Pat Kanuga from CBC.
We got to make that up to him.
And we owe him a make good because we went to the loudest bar on planet Earth, and he had such great stuff to tell us. And I had people listen to it go, after you fixed it after the first 5 minutes, it was great. I don't think too many people made it past the first 5 minutes, though, because it was so noisy.
Yeah, no, but that was also my fault because I screwed up the sound on that. So let's make that up with Pat.
We were learning the microphone.
I also think we should have Brett McGarry on again. He was awesome. And also Jeff Braun. They do the Coach Potatoes podcast. Yeah. On
a little influencer marketing.
Oh, so good. Okay, so there you go.
And next week, we're going to have somebody on Star Wars Nerds talking about their addiction to Star Wars Battlefront.
That's right.
And how it took opioids to get them off it. Just kidding, it didn't.
Okay, we got to get to recommendations, and I'm going to roll mine into something that we missed in the nerd news, but I want to talk about it. Okay. This week we lost Dolores O'Riordan. How do you say your last name?
O'Riordan is the way they're pronouncing it on NBC, and that's never how I pronounced it before this week.
It's a tough spelling, but she of course was the singer for the Cranberries, and she passed away this week. Still undetermined her cause of death. Do they know?
They're saying it's not being investigated as a crime.
Okay.
So I think it's let's not say because I think it's still
we shouldn't.
No, we shouldn't. But it's very sad.
She was 46, so very young. And just an amazing band. I saw them when they came here to Winnipeg in the 90s. I think it might have been. I'm looking up.
They had a few albums out by the time they came here.
So I think it was the No Need to Argue, or maybe it was the next one. What was the next one after?
No, I think it was.
No Need to Argue was their second album.
Oh, what was the third one?
Hold on. No Need to, everyone else is doing it. Oh no, that's the first one. Oh no, Bury the Hatchet was the next. No. Sorry, I'm looking. It's not in order, of course, on Google. So screw you, Google. Okay, To the Faithful Departed. That was it. It was 1996. That was it. So I saw them at the old Winnipeg Arena. The worst seats ever I've ever had at a concert.
In the worst concert venue ever. Oh,
so
horrible.
Bad. The sound was horrible.
Yeah, concrete. It was back in the days when the arena was pure concrete.
I was like at the very end, opposite of the stage, of the other end of the rink or whatever, the hockey rink. Mm-hmm. And I was at the second or third level, so I wasn't even high enough that I could see onto the stage. So I was like as physically far away from the band as I could possibly be. And they didn't have screens back then. There was no big screens that now they always put up on a concert so you can see closer up. So I was literally looking at a bunch of stick figures on a stage, still a great concert. And so what I would suggest, my recommendations to people this week is, if you haven't done it already, give some of those early albums a listen. No need to argue. Everyone is doing it. What is it? Everyone else is doing it. Why aren't we?
So why can't we?
Why can't we? And then Bury the Hatchet, To the Faithful Departed, Bury the Hatchet. And that's kind of when I fell off. Like late 90s is when I fell off of listening to them a lot. But they're still, it's just an amazing band. And I'm very, very sad to
yeah, if they would have come toured here in recent years, I would have gone for sure.
No,
I missed the first one. I can't remember for what reason that was, but I didn't see them.
They played Zombie. That was such a great moment in that. And Linger, too. Linger is another one of my favorite.
See, I never liked the song Linger, but I love Dreams from the same album. Like Dreams to me.
Yes. Oh, such a good album.
That to me was the song. I played that song to death. So to me, in comparison to Dreams, I was always like, why does everyone like Linger so much?
Well,
Dreams
I always made fun of Linger because I changed the lyrics to say, do you have too many fingers? So
Weird Al.
Exactly.
Very good.
He never did that one.
He should have done it.
But what was the movie that Dreams was in? There was a movie.
Oh, it's been used in trailers.
I just remember this movie. I think it might have been the first Mission Impossible movie.
Yeah.
It's at the very end when Tom Cruise goes off to start his own agency with Ving Rhames or whatever they're doing there. I think they play the Cranberries' Dreams. It seems like a weird choice, but it totally fits, and it's such a good song. So there you go. Listen to the Cranberries this week.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah? Do you have a recommendation for us?
Yeah. Well, I have so many recommendations. Is that your recommendation?
Yes.
Listen to the Cranberries. Oh, how am I supposed to follow Listen to the Cranberries?
Just say something.
Listen to Tom Petty. No, I got. let me think for a second. Now you've upped the game, and now I'm gonna have to come up with something better than what I was gonna do. You know what I'm gonna say? Next week, I have been playing Star Wars Battlefront for 3 days.
I have as well, yeah.
On Star Wars Nerds, we're going to have a whole podcast on it next week. My initial impressions of it, though, are that it's the best-looking Star Wars game I've ever seen, but I have issues with the gameplay, and I have issues with the loading time. If that seems common...
What is with that? Loading time. Come on.
I'm doing more sitting than playing on this game and like looking out the window kind of thing. So I can't give it a massive recommendation, but let me lay that out as my early thoughts. I'm going to play it. Our student Gabby was very nice to loan it to me. She said I asked her for an extension of 1 week to play it, and she said okay. So I'm going to try it for 1 more week, and then we'll have that full discussion after that. That's my initial impression.
Do you have Xbox Live? Are you online with Xbox?
I do not have Xbox Live as it stands. I had it, not anymore.
Yeah, you should get, I think, you can get a free 30-day trial or something. Mm-hmm. We should do that this week. Get online and maybe try the online gaming part of it. Because I haven't played that very much. My kids do, but I don't. And so I've been playing the missions, and there's just these kind of general, like, go crazy. I posted a video of Luke playing it on Facebook the other day. Mm-hmm. Luke has his own YouTube channel, and he was playing it. And basically, he's just playing as heroes. He's just going through them all, and it's pretty funny to watch him do it. But so there's a lot of flexibility. But one thing I haven't really done is play the online component. So maybe we can get our guest in there as well. We can all go online and play a little game. So we'll talk about that after the podcast and see if we can set that up.
I was also going to say I've started watching what will likely be Oscar-nominated films.
Oh, good.
And and I almost started talking about one, but I was like, you know what? We're going to get some nominations soon.
Yes.
Where do those come
next
out?
week. Next week.
All right. So that's when I'll save some of that discussion. And when we're going to discover how many we need to see before the Oscars.
Well, 10,
are
I
upon
guess.
us.
10?
Well, no, but I've seen some, I think, that maybe not.
That's right, yeah.
If things go the way I think they will, but they might not.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Media Nerds Podcast. Go to MediaNerdsPodcast.com for our full podcast, blog, and social media channels.